and taking on Harvard University, home to liberal elite alumni like Ted Cruz, Tom Cotton. After Harvard refused to cave to his demands, Trump froze more than $2 billion worth of federal funding to the school. And who better to determine what colleges should and should not be doing than the man who had to shell out $25 million in penalties for running a fraudulent university he named after himself. But
the laughter started before Jimmy Kimmel even finished setting up the clip. The audience already knew the pattern. Donald Trump at a rally, standing in front of a cheering crowd, taking another swing at educated Americans he has spent years dismissing. He called them dumb. He called them overrated. Then, with familiar confidence, he brought the conversation back to himself. He was smarter. He had the higher IQ. He knew more than the experts. The crowd behind him laughed and clapped because that was what the moment was built for. But inside Kimmel's studio, the laughter sounded different. It started as comedy, then slowly became something sharper. Because Kimmel was not just reacting to another insult. He was about to ask the question sitting under Trump's public image for decades.
But Trump says there's nothing wrong with him. He said the White House doctors have reported he's in perfect health and that I aced, meaning was correct on 100% of the questions asked. He defines the word aced for, like we're the ones with dementia. I aced for the third straight time my cognitive exam, something which no other president or previous vice president was willing to take. Or asked to take, by the way.
Kimmel watched the clip end and reminded viewers that Trump had used the same attack for years. Low IQ, weak, stupid, overrated. The target changed, but the message stayed the same. Trump always wanted America to believe he was the smartest man in the room. Then Kimmel leaned closer to the camera and brought up the old questions about grades, school records, and test score. Trump had spent years boasting about elite education while keeping much of his academic history surrounded by mystery. The segment framed it carefully, not as a final judgment, but as a public question about a public myth. If the story of brilliance was so strong, why did it always seem to need protection? That was when the studio changed.
In 2011, Trump challenged President Obama to release his academic records. And then days later, someone called Trump's high school and demanded they find and bury Trump's transcript. So I would bet Trump's grades were so bad he couldn't even get into Trump University. But
Kimmel reached beneath the desk and lifted what the segment presented as an old academic document tied to Trump's school story. The audience reacted before he even opened it. Some laughed nervously, others went silent. Kimmel adjusted his glasses and began reading slowly. The first numbers sounded respectable enough. Verbal reasoning appeared strong. Math reasoning seemed solid. The room waited, unsure where the turn was coming. Then Kimmel paused and looked up. In that pause, the audience felt the trap closing. The question was no longer whether Trump scored well in one category. The question was whether the legend matched the full picture. Then came the number that froze the room. The segment suggested the overall percentile connected to the document was far lower than the image Trump had spent years selling. Kimmel did not shout it. He simply read it and let the audience absorb the contrast. A man who mocked Harvard graduates as dumb was now facing questions about his own academic legend on national television. The crowd gasped first, then laughed, but the laughter was no longer light. It was the laughter that comes when a powerful story begins to crack. Kimmel's strongest moment came after the reading. He connected the insult to a larger pattern. For years, Trump had questioned critics' intelligence and mocked universities when educated people challenged him. Education mattered when it strengthened his image, but became meaningless when it belonged to others. And now the segment framed that contradiction in a way everyone could understand. A loud man had built a tower out of boasts. A calm host had pulled out one piece of paper. Suddenly, the tower did not look so tall. Then the story shifted toward privilege and access. The segment suggested Trump's path through elite education may have involved more than brilliance alone. Family connections, wealth, and influence hovered over the conversation. Kimmel presented it less like a courtroom argument and more like a mirror. How many ordinary Americans had worked hard and still never received the opportunities available to people born into power? That line landed because many viewers understand the difference between achievement and inheritance. They know character is not proven by bragging from a podium. It is proven by how a person treats others when he has the power to be cruel and the choice to be decent. The segment then imagined Trump reacting in real time. Furious, defensive, calling the report fake, insulting Kimmel, threatening lawsuits, insisting again that he was at the top. The audience waits for Kimmel to explode back, but he does not. He lets the anger burn itself out, then asks one calm question about the family influence the segment had raised. And that is when the silence lands. The story was never just about a score, a school, or a decades-old document. It was about the difference between confidence and insecurity, between leadership and performance, between earned dignity and inherited power. By the end, the room was not laughing the same way it had been at the start. The joke had become a judgment, the insult had turned around, and the man who tried to make Harvard graduates look small had instead made his own myth the center of the question. Because real intelligence does not need to humiliate people, real strength does not fear questions, and real leadership does not spend its life calling others dumb just to feel tall. Sometimes the loudest boast can survive for years, until one calm voice reads one quiet line, and suddenly, the whole room understands what was hiding behind the noise.